What's up, you guys? Welcome to Monkey Peak Part 2 Revisited Manga Review. We are going to be picking up where we left off in the last video, where we're going to be talking about the most unlikable characters in terms of increasing unlikability, and then significant characters to the plot, and then our overall likable characters. Alright, so we're going to be starting this video off with Fujiwara. Let's get into it. Alright, to be honest with you, I didn't really have any strong feelings towards Fujiwara for the first half of the manga series, because to me, she was just a supporting character whose importance to the plot was negligible. It wasn't until we got halfway through the manga series that she accused Saotome of hiding water and food rations that I began to develop a negative view of her. Because of her false accusations, the entire group had a negative relationship towards Saotome for the rest of the manga. To them, he is a scumbag. To them, they can't trust him, and they really used him as a guinea pig and as a scapegoat for a lot of things, and I just didn't like that. I was willing to give her a pass because it seemed like she was pressured into making the false accusation, because she was teaming up with Izuka, and Izuka at this point is trying to treat this shit like it's a Survivor reality show and that you need alliances and stuff. But the thing was, everybody that Izuka worked with, they were never really truly equal allies. He was just basically using people, and he was using the pressure of blackmail and shame. And Fujiwara was kind of forced to go along with the alliance for the first half of their alliance. It was Izuka leading, and it was Fujiwara reluctantly following. And Fujiwara seemed like she had a really solid moral compass. She knew that the things that she was doing was wrong. She knew that blaming Saotome was wrong. And I was willing to kind of be a little bit lenient with her. I was still disapproving of what she was doing, and I still kind of disliked it. But she seemed like a genuinely good person. Her moral compass was in the right place, right? So I was kind of willing to let it pass. But towards the later half of their alliance with Fujiwara and Izuka, it just seemed like she was more of a willing accomplice at this point, and she was actively deciding to stick by Izuka. And I get that Izuka was providing her food and water and just basic things to survive and luxuries and stuff where everybody else was starving, and he had her back technically in some stressful situations. It wasn't really out of genuine concern and genuine compassion for Fujiwara. It was more so that he needed Fujiwara to be okay, so he wouldn't take the brunt of the heat by himself, or that he wouldn't have to go on surviving on his own. But if it really came down to it, he was willing to throw Fujiwara under the bus. And Fujiwara, I think she's realized a couple of times that Izuka really does not care about her, but she's just so reliant upon this alliance with him at this point that she's willing to lie to herself. She's in denial about the fact they're in an alliance and that Izuka actually cares about her. Izuka doesn't, but maybe she'll see it eventually. But at this point in the manga, where we are currently at with 70, I don't like Fujiwara. She can get killed by one of the monkeys, and I wouldn't really feel too bad about it unless they have some type of character development or backstory into Fujiwara, where she has grew up in an abusive household, and she has grew up basically being in these relationships with men who have used her or taking advantage of her, or like she's been bullied, and so she's used to being this meek, subservient person, right? So maybe I would feel kind of bad if they did some type of character background explanation of that sort. If she was in a life or death situation, I would kind of feel bad. And it's interesting because with Satao, her mom told her never to rely on a guy, and that she should try to basically be independent and self-sufficient. And we see Fujiwara going in the exact opposite direction. She is entirely dependent upon Izuka and his charity and his goodwill to basically be in an alliance with him. And I just don't have respect for Fujishiba at this point. If she were to die, I wouldn't feel too bad about it. I need to gather the strength to talk about Izuka because this man is the devil incarnate of this manga. Izuka is the most detestable character of a reality competition or a survival show. He forms alliances out of self-interest and self-preservation, and he does not hesitate to throw his allies under the bus should the opportunity be beneficial to him. When the group found out that Izuka and Fujishiba were hiding and holding rations of food and water for themselves, Izuka threw Fujishiba under the bus, and he explained it to Fujishiba that he was throwing her under the bus for her benefit, that he needed to keep his reputation squeaky clean with the group so he could back her up and support her in any collective group decisions going forward. And Fujishiba, being desperate at this point to be allies with someone and to have Izuka's support and to just believe that Izuka has her back, she's eating up this BS, even though we all know that it's BS, right? When Fujishiba and Izuka made an alliance with the character whose arm was in a sling and he was a massive asshole, he used that guy's death to pressure and blackmail Tono and Sato to be in an alliance with him. Izuka has a really good skill of knowing which characters to pressure, what type of leverage that he needs on other characters in the group to get them to move the way he wants them to. Even at this point, Sato has not told the group certain things about Izuka because Izuka knows that Sato killed the guy whose arm was in a sling. And it seems stupid to me because Sato was doing that in self-defense. This guy was willing to have her killed by the monkeys. He was trying to fight her. He was willing to sacrifice her in order for his own life to be saved. And Sato just simply kicked him off the cliff as a reflex in self-defense, and he died as a result of it. And I feel like the group would not hold it against Sato too badly if she were to just come clean about that. But Izuka is this master manipulator. He knows that the shame of it all is what's keeping her from, basically leaking and blabbing about it. The same with Fujishiba as well. Fujishiba, from the start and up to the middle of the manga, seems to have a good conscience and a good moral compass. But the more she gets sucked into this alliance with Izuka, the less leverage, I'd say, she has. At first, she was an unwilling accomplice. At first, she was pressured to be a part of this alliance. And if she had just simply come clean, the backlash would not have been that bad for her, right? But now she's making herself a willing accomplice. She's actively choosing to be in an alliance with Izuka. She is actively choosing to stay by his side and side with him. And at that point, Izuka knows that he has very strong leverage on both Fujishiba and Sato. Another thing I don't like about Izuka that I just can't forgive him for, and I really hope that he gets killed off very soon in this manga for, is the second cabin. Satome, Anzai, Yagi, Miyata, and the others, they formulate a plan and they create a solid defense and setup in the cabin to lure the monkeys inside and kill them one by one with the spears. Izuka sees this, and instead of siding with them because they need all the manpower that they can get, Izuka takes Fujishiba and he basically hides in a bathroom. He convinces Sato that, hey, the monkeys are probably going to get in the house. You need to set the house on fire. That way we kill all the monkeys. And even if we kill the monkeys, well, at least the fire is going to be a signal to somebody outside, and they're going to see it and they're going to investigate it. Which I'll give it its due diligence here. I hate to say it. I really do hate to say it, but I'll give it its due diligence. It kind of worked. It kind of worked, all right? Him manipulating Sato into setting the cabin on fire did signal outside help, right? It did. Technically, right? But we'll never know if Satome, Anzai, Miyata, Yagi's plan to basically kill all the monkeys in that cabin would have worked or not if the cabin wasn't on fire. Because Sato was manipulated by Izuka to set the cabin on fire, they had to escape the cabin. They no longer had this well-defended fortress for a siege. You know? They knew the monkeys were going to attack. The monkeys had to go inside to murder them. But instead, Sato set the house on fire. They were forced to flee the house. The monkeys all just guarded one window, and it just kind of made it like shooting fish in a barrel at that point for the monkeys. All they had to do was keep the characters trapped inside the cabin and let the cabin burn down. And if it wasn't for Tono using the bomb that he made to at least kill one of the monkeys and scare off the rest, they would have all been dead, or it would have been a lot more casualties than just Tono. So I hold Tono's death specifically on Izuka, and I'm just kind of very frustrated with Sato because she had the chance to come clean. She had the chance to basically say, hey, Izuka told me to set the cabin on fire, but she didn't. She didn't rat out Izuka. So Izuka is able to sit up here with Fujishiba and lie while everybody else is fighting for their lives. Izuka and Fujishiba was hiding in a freaking compost toilet, underneath a compost toilet, in the ashes of the house. Was it a smart move? Yes. Yes. I mean, yeah, it was a smart move. Was it a rat move? Yes. It was despicable. All right? I have no respect for Izuka. Izuka is one of those characters that you constantly wish would just get killed off in the series soon. And somehow the author and the artist just don't. They know that your hatred of this character is what fuels you to keep reading or keep watching the series. So they keep this character alive. They keep farming your hatred for him to fuel the views or fuel the purchases of the volumes, because they know you want to see this character die. It's like the manga series that we did a review for, A World That I Rule. We all hated the main character. At some point, the main character just became the antagonist of the entire series, and we were all wishing for this guy's downfall. And what it really became at that point was, how many chapters do I have to read till this guy actually dies? That's what it is with Izuka. Plus, I'm just gonna say it, you can never trust a man that wears Calvin Kleins. I'm just saying it. When they were climbing the mountain and they're trying to get out of there, we see Izuka's changing clothes and we see that this man has Calvin Kleins on. You can't trust a man with Calvin Kleins. That's a red flag, all right? He's toxic. Fujishiba, you need to leave him alone. That man is just toxic. He's not willing to be in an alliance with you. He's in alliance with himself. You're just an accessory. Be honest with yourself. Anzai is built like a quarterback. And he's a very intimidating dude. He's very physically imposing. But I'm gonna be honest with you, throughout most of the manga, I have had no problem with Anzai, and I've actually liked his character. I think I started to dislike Anzai, or start looking at him sideways, when they got to the second cabin and he started torturing people, and he started calling himself the Warrior of Justice. Now, I don't think Anzai is an unlikable character. It's just that Anzai is a lawful evil type of character. He cares about the group collectively, and he wants the group to survive, collectively speaking. And he's willing to do whatever it takes for the group to survive, collectively speaking. He's willing to torture people to find out who is the monkey's accomplice. And it doesn't matter if they're a man or if they're a woman. It doesn't matter if you have to cut off toes. It doesn't matter if he has to beat the ever living crap out of somebody. Anzai is willing to do what it takes to basically protect not only himself but the others. Where I have a problem with Anzai is that he's very shady. Saotome was given a theory by someone else that Anzai might be the monkey's accomplice because Anzai has a background in football. And in several situations where they had to hurl rocks at the monkeys, Anzai should be one of the most proficient throwers, right? But Anzai missed. And in situations where Anzai has to fight the monkeys, Anzai, as the most physically imposing and most physically capable member of the group, and he's even stated it himself, he has not really fought as hard as he could have fought against the monkeys. I believe Anzai could easily take on a monkey, maybe two monkeys at the same time with some help. But he was not really doing anything when they invaded the cabin. He just kind of sat there and just let things unfold. So naturally, there is a little bit of some suspicion towards Anzai, but I genuinely feel like Anzai is a good person. It's just his intentions are good, his actions are just lacking and come off is very antagonistic, right? Anzai is willing to take accountability for torturing the other group members. He's willing to take accountability for all of his actions should they be rescued and should the other members seek to report him to the police. He's willing to take accountability for it, and I think that that's good. We also see that when he gets exiled by the group, that he has flashbacks of being on the football team and his football teammates basically saying, we can't work with you, man. You're a bad leader. And we see that when Anzai is in the tent, he is having this conversation with himself. He's having these hallucinations that the monkeys are telling him that he's like them, that he just needs to forget about everybody else. But we see Anzai is fighting against this thought. Anzai genuinely does want to protect the group. He genuinely does want the rest of the group to survive. And he genuinely is a good person. He just has a very fucked up way of going about it. So for me, I like Anzai. Also, Anzai has a working theory that Hasegawa is the monkey's accomplice, based off of the fact that Hasegawa has a sword and the human that we see working with the monkeys has a sword. I personally don't think that's a strong... I don't think that's strong enough, Chief. All right. Now, granted, there is a lot of other circumstantial evidence that does push it towards Hasegawa. Miyata, the girl and the pig-faced dude, they are supposed to be climbing down the mountain. Miyata is struggling to carry his rations and the supplies and the survival gear and the lamp. And Hasegawa is basically convincing everybody to give him their backpacks, right? And so he also gets the lamp and he's like, I'm going to watch the back for any monkeys. And surprisingly, lo and behold, he's nowhere to be found and the monkey's right there. We don't see no body. And I'm just saying, in a horror manga, if you don't see a body, especially in a horror survival manga like this, if you don't see a body, that's sus as hell. If you don't see a dead body, a brutally mutilated dead body, assume that they are still alive. Assume that they are back. Something. So that's... Also, him carrying all of their gear put them in a really bad situation where Saotome got frostbite, Miyata almost died, the girl almost died. They had to huddle together for warmth, so it was just kind of bad. It was just kind of bad, and it was just bad. And I'm trying to reconcile the fact that Hasegawa is looking mad sus, and then we also have flashbacks where Hasegawa is talking to Miyata and Saotome, and he's telling them that they're the future, and he's like a father figure to them, and he's nice to them. So it's kind of almost impossible for him to be the monkey's accomplice from an emotional point of view. Like, how could you be a father figure and betray your co-workers, your employees like this, that you consider your children, that you consider the next future generation? Like, how, like, how, my dude? I can't see it. Maybe Anzai is on to something. Maybe Hasegawa is the monkey's accomplice. It's really looking like that, but maybe he's not. Maybe Hasegawa has survived in some other way. We have yet to see about that, but that's my thoughts on Anzai. We also see that in the latest chapters, 70 or so, Anzai really just has this self-preservation mindset, the survival of the fittest. He's not willing to willingly sacrifice or intentionally sacrifice other members of the group, but from Anzai's perspective, if you're too weak to carry on, then you will die, and there's nothing he can do about it. If you're strong enough to stay with him, if you're strong enough to stick with him, if you're strong enough to stick with the group, then good, solid, I got your back. But if you can't, I'm not going to carry you. I'm not going to support you. I am no longer holding on to dead weight. So that's Anzai's point of view at this point. And I don't blame him, but there is just survival in numbers. And I feel like if Anzai is a part of the group and actively working to protect the group, they would do better as a group. We're in the final four. All right. And I want to talk about Hiyashi. I don't really have much to say on Hiyashi because, in my opinion, she's just been a main supportive character. And she's just always been there for Miyata and Saotome. And they are stronger together, all three of them, than apart. She has been there both mentally and physically for Saotome and Miyata. She's been there for them when they are physically drained, when Miyata's feet are absolutely destroyed by his shoes, when he is physically strained and exhausted. Saotome is going through frostbite. This man has literally had the life beaten out of him when they're all huddling together for warmth, and she has his back. She understands Saotome, where Saotome comes off as kind of weird and kind of standoffish and mysterious to a lot of other people. To Miyata and Hiyashi, he's their friend. He is a comrade. And another thing I can say for Hiyashi is that she's not the Sakura of the trio. If this is like Naruto, Sasuke, Sakura, she's not anything like Sakura in Naruto. When Yagi was teaching both Miyata, Saotome, and Hiyashi how to create slingshots and how to hurl stones at the monkeys, she was keeping up with them. She has been keeping up with them, and she has been keeping up with the rest of the group. She has never really fallen behind. She has never been one to be physically strained or exhausted to the same extent that Miyata and Saotome have. And she hasn't been dead weight. So those are things I can say in her favor. She has fought alongside them in a lot of situations. She's never ran. She's never been a coward. It's just nothing really you can say bad about Hiyashi, but I can be completely honest to say this. She doesn't really have a standout moment to me personally in the manga that I've just been like, yes, this is her chapter. Yes, this is her arc. Maybe it's coming up, but Hayashi's just always been there as a supportive character for both Miyata and Saotome. So there's not really anything negative I can say about her. There's just all love. I've liked her character from the start of the manga to the middle, like even more so in the middle, because she's just stood by them in a lot of situations. And she's really kept everyone's spirits up. And she's the moral support of the group as well. So that's something good that Hiyashi brings towards the rest of the plot. That's all I can say. I can't make some elaborate long section about her. Like, maybe I need to reread the manga and I can have more to say, but like, that's all I can say from now, from what I can recall. One of my favorite characters, even though they haven't been in the series as long as the other characters, is Yagi. This man is weird, but he has a very strong survival skill set. When he first appeared at the second cabin with his sister, the rest of the group confused him as a rescue team. And it was revealed that no, they just occasionally hike in the area, right? But I gotta admit, when I first saw Yagi and his sister, I was a bit skeptical, all right? Because the way Yagi was acting with his sister was not like some brother-sister connection. It was mad sus. They were acting like they were a little bit more than brother and sister, to be honest to me. They also didn't really seem that intimidated about the prospect of monkeys being in the mountain. They weren't too bothered by seeing corpses either. But then again, they brushed that off and explained that when they climb the mountains, they're used to seeing like corpses mangled because of like falling and other means. So seeing corpses didn't bother them. But I still kind of thought that they were mad sus when they first appeared in the manga, because they didn't seem phased by any of it. The torture, the interrogation, they just had neutral expressions, if not semi-interest in everything that was going on. And the thing that changed everything for me, and the thing that changed everything for Yagi, I think, is when his sister died. When the monkeys did attack the cabin, at first they saw the monkeys and they were just so happy, but it wasn't until his sister got speared through the chest by a monkey that Yagi's happiness and his excitement at seeing the monkeys and seeing that they were real turned into pure hatred. We're talking like Aaron Yeager levels of hatred for these monkeys. And I at the time I was just like, what did you think? These people are literally telling you that the monkeys are killing everybody, and you're just like, ooh, monkeys? Where? You thought that they wouldn't kill you? You thought that you and your sister just got a pass? You thought that they were just gonna look at you and your sister and just walk away and just murder the rest of these guys? Nah, man. You guys are included in this now. So after Yagi's sister died, my suspicions of him being a monkey's accomplice just faded instantly, right? And Yagi has been such a crucial part of the group up until this point. Like when he and his sister arrived, they had some rations, some water that they was able to share with the group and help the group survive a little longer. On top of that, they knew their way around the mountain. And then on top of that, they had a phone that was supposed to be able to call for help, but the rest of the group, they fumbled that, and then it fell off a cliff and kind of just got smashed. So there was their way of calling for help just gone. But Yagi, up until that point and going forward, he has been an absolute powerhouse. This man has 2 pickaxes and he's willing to throw down with these monkeys on the cliff. He has maneuverability, the speed, and the strength to go toe to toe with a monkey by himself. He knows how to create slingshots from absolutely nothing. He is just overall intelligent. He's able to strategize and figure out things very quick and very on the fly. So he has been a powerful asset to the group, and I just think that without Yagi, without his knowledge of the mountains, of nature, of everything in general, a lot more people would be dead. Things would be a lot more difficult for them. Yagi has just been that dude. He's still that dude, and he's not gonna stop until he kills the rest of the monkeys. I feel like Yagi's gonna die, unfortunately. Unfortunately, Yagi's gonna die, all right? We all know how this goes. You always have that one character that's an absolute badass and is an absolute powerhouse in these horror survival mangas. And when they're on your team, you're just like, yeah, we have a chance. We're actually doing this, right? We actually can stand up to these monkeys with this guy on our side. And something BS happens and, they die. I think Yagi's gonna die. I don't know how soon he's gonna die. Maybe like 5-10 chapters or something, but like Yagi has got to die, because if he's still alive, I think the monkeys aren't really gonna be that much of a threat. We know that they're down to 2 now, so I feel like Anzai could take on a monkey by himself. Yagi could probably take on a monkey as well by himself, and I feel like we're not including Miyata, we're not including South Tome, we're not including Hayashi. I don't want to include Fujishiba, Izuka, and Sato, or the other guy that got tortured, mainly because they are really cowards. They will sit back and they'll watch the others do the fighting. So let's just be honest. I don't count on them to actually step in and do anything unless they are actively being attacked themselves. So really, it's just can Miyata, Saotome, and Hayashi help out enough in a fight against these 2 monkeys? And we're not counting the human accomplice that we don't even know who it is at this point, who has the sword. Granted, we don't have anybody else with any other weapons outside of Yagi and his pickaxes that could fight the guy with the sword. So like that dude is a whole threat in and of himself. So there's that. But Yagi, I love Yagi, man. I love Yagi. He was mad sus at the start. Dude was moving a little too close to his sister, and then on top of that, they just seemed to be a little too interested in those monkeys. But after he lost his sister, his whole mood changed, all right? Those little bug eyes of his, they used to give me like kind of sus vibes, like, okay, you're a psychopath. And then now it's just like, okay, you're still a psychopath, but you're not working with the monkeys. You're a psychopath that wants to murder the monkeys. I'm for it. I'm for it. That's my thoughts on Yagi. You know, I'll be honest with you. I don't want to make two separate clips. I'm just going to talk about Miyata and Saotome together. These guys are best friends. And even though Saotome went off the radar for a while and Miyata has no idea what has happened, we see that Miyata has Saotome's back and Saotome has Miyata's back. Solid, bro. Solid. Throughout this entire series from start to chapter 70, solid. When the rest of the group suspected that Saotome had food and water rations that he was hiding, Miyata and Satao chose to stay behind with Saotome. And when Saotome is taking a piss, Miyata can smell it and he's just like, oh my god. But he was like, yeah, I knew it. He's innocent. And Satao's like, how do you know? And then Miyata was like, when a person's dehydrated, their urine smells even worse. And so he's like, I knew that Saotome was innocent. Miyata, he's always had Saotome's back, man. And even when Anzai was torturing Saotome, Miyata couldn't stand it. He couldn't agree with it. And he went out of his way to rescue Saotome and get him out of there. And when left with just Anzai and the rest of the group, Miyata said, hey, I ain't with it. You ain't going to do that to my friend and expect me to still be a part of your team. We're going to break off. We're going to be our own team and we're going to find our own way down the mountain. But I'm not going to be a part of whatever this is. And I just respect Miyata so much for it because he just was not going for it at all. He didn't care what the consequences were going to be with Anzai. He was just like, fuck it. You're not going to torture my friend like that. Especially when I know he's a good person and he's not capable of that. He didn't like the fact that they were using Saotome as a guinea pig for the drinks and the food to see if it was poison. And let's just be honest. I think the chairman died because the food was poison, or at least one of the cans is poison. And Saotome was going to eat that too. So he dodged a bullet there. And let's just talk about how Saotome has Miyata's back. Saotome is willing to go out of his way. He discovered Tanaka, I think, at the bottom of the cliff. He climbed back up the cliff. He had no shoes on. It's cold outside. His feet must be freezing. They must be like on fire, needles and shit. He goes out of his way, takes Tanaka to the cabin. He could have stayed inside the cabin, had warmth and shelter and shit. He goes out of his way to go back to where Miyata is and warn Miyata that, hey, there's another monkey. He goes out of his way to protect Miyata and Hayashi from the monkey. He goes out of his way to fight this monkey. He goes out of his way to throw himself off of a cliff with a monkey to protect the rest of the group, right? When he is cuddled up with Hayashi and Miyata, he is helping Miyata get warmth. Miyata is over here just cursing the fact that he wore a suit just so he can impress everybody and make himself seem better. Saotome is like, hey, shut that shit up. You're not blaming yourself, all right? You're my friend. Shut that shit up. You're not dying. You're not dying today. You're not dying today. All right? Let me just be honest. I was kind of scared that Miyata was going to die from just freezing to death. I was really scared. How they all managed to survive, I was honestly terrified. But they managed to huddle together. They managed to be warm. I'm good on it. I'm good. We see that Miyata goes out of his way, especially in recent chapters, to help shoulder the burden for Saotome, because Saotome has just been doing so much, especially when Yagi has said to him that, hey, dude, your toes are absolutely destroyed. You're probably going to lose a few toes from this. And you're not feeling it now, but you're going to be feeling intense pain. And you're going to wish that you could cut off those toes. And Miyata, he's just like, hey, I got it. I'll carry it for you. Saotome's like, no. I'm stronger between the two of us. I can do it. Saotome is just a bulldozer. He just keeps powering through. He just, no matter what happens to him, he just powers through. This man has been through so much. And Miyata, he's no pushover either. This man is wearing a suit. He's wearing these freaking dress shoes. His feet are absolutely destroyed from these dress shoes and this rocky geology or geography. And for a guy in a suit, he's been holding on to himself pretty well, you know, to be honest. And he has been contributing a lot to the group. He has stood his ground with Sao Tome when they made plans to fight the monkeys. I just don't know what to say about Miata, man. Dude is the perfect, like, sidekick. He's the perfect best friend. He's just had Sao Tome's back throughout most of this manga. And he's been watching Sao Tome's back. And Sao Tome is willing to sacrifice his life for Miata's and Hayashi's. And it's just really good. It's just really good. It's just really good. Like, man, like, you know, I'll be really disappointed if Miata is the monkey's accomplice. I would be really disappointed. But the reason I'm throwing this out there, even though we already see that there is another monkey's accomplice with a sword, is sometimes in these horror mangas, the best friend is the main antagonist. Sometimes the most friendly person in the group is the villain. All right, and I'm not willing to cross Miata off that list. He could potentially be a villain. All right, maybe. I don't see it, but like, I don't see it, but I could imagine it. All right, I could picture it. I don't see it, but if it were to occur, I wouldn't be shocked. All right, but Sao Tome, this dude, even though he has like the weirdest smile in the world that makes him look sus as hell and looks like a villain sometimes, he's good. He's good. This man has thrown down his life several times. This man is stripped almost naked in front of an entire group of people to prove that he didn't eat no food or drink any water. He has took the brunt of the group's accusations square on the head, and he has always sought to protect the group as a whole. And it's just, Sao Tome's not just physically strong and he has a lot of endurance physically, but he has a lot of mental endurance. He's been through a lot. He has a lot of trauma from his past. He has lost two people that are very important to him, and everybody is looking at him differently in the group because they think that he's a murderer. But the thing is, we don't really even know the full details of his past, especially the incident with the motorcycle. So with Sao Tome, this man has a lot of different layers. There's a lot of depth to him. And just Sao Tome, dude is just, he's holding up the weight of the entire plot on his broad shoulders. All right. And he's just mentally tough, mentally and physically. Anzai is beating the shit out of him and just literally wailing on this guy. And Sao Tome's like, is that all you got? Is that all you got? I can take a lot more. And I'm just like, oh boy, bro, you're getting punched by a linebacker, bro. You're getting punched by a quarterback. Are you sure you want to say these type of things to this man? Sao Tome gives no fucks, man. He'll throw down with a monkey if he has to. Sao Tome is more than capable, and Sao Tome, he's smart. So he's not just bronze. He is smart enough to know that there was more than one monkey. He was smart enough to know the possible trajectory of the monkey, or like where the monkey was going. He's able to kind of figure out if something's a trap or not relatively quickly. And yeah, that's all I gotta say about it. Like, that's all I gotta say. I'm sorry that I took so long and I procrastinated for so long to make this video, but hopefully it was worth the wait. Hopefully some of you guys feel the same way I do about some of these characters. God, I hate Izuka. God, I wish Izuka would just die in the next 5 chapters, man. I feel like I could truly rejoice and just simply sit back and relax and enjoy Monkey's Peak when Izuka dies. Because then that alliance is over. Then Fujishiba's going to have to fend for herself. But I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think Izuka's going to die before Fujishiba does. Hell, I don't even think he'll die before Satao does. I mean, I think Satao and Fujishiba are probably going to die. Satao seems like she's at her limit right now, mentally as well as physically. So I could see her dying. Fujishiba, she's next in line. But I'd be really devastated if they killed off Hayashi or Miata. I'll just be absolutely devastated. But I can't see any of them dying anytime soon either. So that's my thoughts for Monkey's Peak. Hopefully you guys like this video and you subscribe for more. There will be another manga review coming up soon. Bye guys.